Today I'm going to give you an update on my G3 Blue and White project, as there's been a pretty significant upgrade to this machine since the last time I discussed and demonstrated it. Taking a look at the inside of the machine, you can see that it's now been upgraded with a Sonnet G4 upgrade. The purple heatsink kind of gives it away. This upgrade requires external power in order for it to run, as it doesn't get enough power off the motherboard itself. And this is the jumper setting that I'm using in order to get the bus speed down to 66 MHz in order to run this 1 GHz Sonnet upgrade. This splitter is required in order to draw additional power off the power supply's main output in order to power the CPU module. The machine features two Sonnet upgrades, as it also has a Sonnet Tempo PCI SATA card hiding over here. Over here I have the original G3 CPU module which I removed from the machine, together with its jumper block which set the bus speed to 100 MHz. The BGA cache chips are the giveaway that this is in fact a 450 MHz CPU module. Taking a look at the CPU cooler, you can see that the thermal interface is still intact, and interestingly this cooler was made by the same company which made the fans for the Voodoo 5500. For reference purposes, I've placed the 466 MHz G4 CPU, which I removed from my G4 digital audio, next to the G3 module, just to show you the difference in die size. You can see that there was a significant increase in die size between the G3 and G4. I've already purchased the zip drive bezel in order to fit an internal zip drive into the machine, and I'm now going to cover some of the upgrades which I still need to carry out in order to complete this project. Firstly, I still have to purchase an iOmega internal zip drive for the machine, as well as a Vulkan USB 2 PCI card. There's another extremely rare option as well for this, and that is the Sonnet Tempo Trio, which would give the machine two USB 2 ports, as well as two additional FireWire 400 ports, as well as a ATA 133 interface, which the machine currently doesn't have. And lastly, I still need to purchase four 256 MB PC100 SD RAM DIMMs in order to give the machine its full complement of 1 GB of RAM. Now that I have OS X Tiger booted, I'm going to quickly show you the Sonnet CPU as OS X sees it. So we now have a 1 GHz PowerPC G4 CPU with 1 MB of level 3 cache. The CPU also features 256 KB of on-die level 2 cache, which runs at CPU speed. And take note that the bus speed is now being reduced to 67 MHz. The machine has the following PCI cards slotted. Firstly, the Adaptec bootable SCSI card, which I'll replace with the Vulkan USB 2 card eventually. The Atto, which appears as two separate cards, and the Radeon 9200 LE, and lastly the Sonnet SATA PCI card. Taking a look at graphics and displays, the system has a Radeon 9200 LE fitted with 128 MB of video RAM. Looking back to an excerpt from my previous video, you can see that the machine is fitted with a G3 CPU running at 450 MHz. When you take a look at the system bus speed, you notice that it's running at 100 MHz and not the 67 MHz that it's currently running at. This does pose a degree of limitation on the system, which will be discussed later on in this video. Here I've graphically illustrated the differences between these two CPU modules, both in terms of clock speed as well as bus speed. And although the Sonnet G4 upgrade runs at a significantly higher clock speed than the G3, its bus speed is slightly slower. And even though it's a small difference, it does have a significant impact on the performance of certain applications. Now we come to the testing, and to kick things off I'm going to start off with my traditional test.blend scene in Blender in order to gauge the CPU performance. The system's only equipped with one CPU thread, and for my first rendering I'm going to set the X and Y parts to 16 by 16. I will also conduct a second rendering with the parts set to 1 by 1 to see if it makes any difference. The system managed to render the scene in 9 minutes, 41 seconds and 54 split seconds. Now on to the second rendering with the X and Y parts set to 1 by 1. This time it managed to do it in 9 minutes, 40 seconds and 32 split seconds. A little bit faster than the first time, but not really such a big difference. Taking a look at a flashback from our previous video with the G3 CPU fitted, you can see that it did it in 18 minutes, 23 seconds and 15 split seconds. Taking a look at the combined rendering results, it's clear that the 1 GHz Sonnet CPU is significantly quicker than that of the 450 MHz G3 that was originally fitted in this machine. In fact, it's almost twice as fast. So here you're pretty much getting the performance increase that you'd expect to see by fitting the upgraded CPU into this machine. Next up, I'm going to run Xbench to test the speeds of the drives currently installed in the machine to see whether the Sonnet G4 upgrade has had a positive impact on drive performance. I'm going to start off by testing the system disk, which is a 256GB Samsung Evo SSD. Next up, I'm going to test the storage disk, which is a 640GB mechanical SATA drive. And lastly, I'm going to test the Atto SCSI disk, which is a 73GB, 15,000 RPM Fujitsu SCSI disk. When I shot my last video, I only had the Samsung Evo SSD as well as the Fujitsu SCSI disk installed. So these are the disks that I'm going to compare to the disks currently installed in the machine in order to get a performance comparison. Taking a look at the combined results, you can see that there's a slight improvement in drive performance in both the Samsung SSD as well as the Fujitsu SCSI drive as a result of the Sonnet upgrade. Now we come to the final test of the day, which is the Quake 3 Demo 4 FPS performance. For the test, I'm going to be using maximum settings at 1024x768. So the system managed an average FPS of 36.5 frames per second at maximum settings at 1024x768. This was a synthetic benchmark, so I'm quickly going to show you the actual gameplay performance at these settings.
You have taken the lead. You are tied for the lead.
So you can see it's not too bad. When I tested the Quake 3 performance in my previous video, the system was able to achieve 29.7 frames per second with the G3 CPU fitted. Taking a look at the combined Quake 3 performance, you notice that there isn't such a significant improvement in performance this time. In actual fact, it's only around about 7 frames per second, which equates to about a 20% improvement. So you've got a Sonnet CPU running at twice the speed of the G3, but it's only offering a 20% improvement in performance. I would attribute this to the difference in bus speed. When you take a look at a program such as Blender, which makes use of pure CPU performance, you get the performance increment that you'd expect. However, programs such as games, which use hardware which speaks across the system's bus, you will notice that the difference in bus speed significantly affects the performance of games. So you don't get the performance increment that you'd expect to. So, as far as this CPU upgrade goes, it's very, very beneficial to have it when running applications such as Blender, probably Photoshop. I didn't test Photoshop, but I'd imagine that programs such as Photoshop, which also make use of the Ultivec unit, would benefit largely from this upgrade. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks very much for watching.